Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fitria Utami from TBI 4B. Now I will explain the summary of material about translation ideology. Okay, the first is definition of translation ideology. The ideology of translation is a combination of the content of the search language, text, and several speech aids. In the search language texts that are relevant to the context of the search language along with the content representation, its relevance to the reader, and some translated text speech aids concerning the language context, target, and the mismatch between the two, the search language text and the target language text. Ideology of translation does not only lie in the translated text, but also in the style and position of translator and its relevance to the reader who will enjoy the translated text. Okay, next is kind of ideology in translation. There are two types ideology in translation, namely foreignization and domestication. First is foreignization. Foreignization ideology is a translation-oriented ideology BSU, namely that the correct, acceptable, and good translation is appropriate with the taste and expectation of reader, publisher who want a culture present BSU, or those who consider the presence of a foreign culture beneficial to society. Translators are completely under the control of TSU authors. Here's what stands out is an aspect of foreign culture that is expressed in the language of the reader. Regarding this ideology as an illustration, a translator is not translate the word of Mr., Mrs., Mom, Dad, and a number of other foreign words. Foreignization ideology has advantage and disadvantage, namely, advantage. The reader of the target text can perceive the culture of the search language. Disadvantage, the reader of the target text possible feels uncomfortable finding some strange term. Advantage, the translate the text can present the culture nuance of the search language. Disadvantage, the language of the target text sometimes sound unnatural. Advantage, intercultural learning is possible to take place. Disadvantage, negative culture aspect of the search language can be easily transferred into and can influence the reader. Next is domestication. Domestication ideology is a translation-oriented ideology BSA. This ideology believes that the correct, acceptable, and good translation is according to the taste and expectation of readers who want to translate text in accordance with the culture of the BSA people. Usually, the method chosen is the same method oriented to BSA, such as adaptation, idiomatic translation, and translation communicative. For domesticating ideology, foreign words such as Mr., Mrs., Uncle, Aunt, and so on must be translated into Indonesian in order to be whole. Translation is present as part of the Indonesian language, so that it is accepted among the people BSA readers. He will try to introduce Indonesian culture to the outside world because for him, the correct translation is the one that is acceptable in BSA and not present something for it. Domestication also have the advantage and disadvantage, namely, advantage. The reader of the target language can easily understand the translate text. Disadvantage. Culture aspect of the search text tend to decipher. Advantage. The translate text sound natural and communicative. Disadvantage. The reader of the target language cannot interpret the text because the interpretation is done by the translator. Advantage. Culture assimilation possible. Disadvantage. The reader of the target language knows nothing of the culture of the search language. Okay, I think that's all the explanation about translation ideology from me. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.